I've been in the retirement plan business for close enough to call 30 years and have personally sold a little over 800 companies their retirement plans. So what I want to do is share some ideas with you today so you hopefully will consider us as a choice. So what are the roles of the TPA? In its simplest terms, the TPA, which is required on every retirement plan, is to keep you in compliance. So what does that entail? Well, it entails a couple of three things. First of all, we are the ones who draw up your legal document, which is referred to and called the adoption agreement. The adoption agreement spells out the terms of the plan between the employer and the employees, i.e., who's eligible, what's the match, the vesting schedule, etc. Then once we have an executed or assigned document, then your plan's able to accept contributions. The second part is taking the language that is in the adoption agreement and putting it in terms that regular folks can understand, and that's called the summary plan description. That's taking the language out of the adoption agreement, the material things in it, the things that are germane, and putting them in layman's terms so your employees can understand it. Once you have the documents and the rules all set in the plan, then every year the IRS requires certain discrimination testing that you have to do on the plan to make sure the highly comps are contributing an amount that's suitable in their eyes, and that the plan isn't top heavy, et cetera, and we conduct all those tests behind the scenes. In addition, every year tax returns have to be filed on your plan called Form 5500, and we complete them on your behalf so you can submit them to the IRS. So those are your basic duties of the TPA, but we also handle withdrawals, loans, payroll if a deposit isn't done right, and other day-to-day service questions that we get from one of our dedicated service people that you would have a proper noun to speak with, not just who's ever up next on the call list. There's four main reasons that I believe we are a better choice than most TPAs, and I call these our differentiators. Number one, we're advisor and record keeper neutral. We are a non-producing TPA, which means we can work with any advisor. So if you have a friend, co-worker, somebody you've been working with for a long time and want to continue using them as the role of advisor, we can work with anybody. All the TPAs in the country have only two ways they can price their services. About 80% of them price it one way, and we're in the 20% that price it the other. And that is, we have no per participant fees. The majority of TPAs charge a flat rate, let's say, $1,000, and then they'll have a per participant fee that ranges from $15 to $25 per participant, where our fees are flat and concise no matter how many participants you have. They're so easy you don't even need to write them down. We charge $1,000 a year for safe harbor plans to administer and $2,000 a year for non-safe harbors or traditional K. Simple as that. The third is we have an ERISA attorney on staff. And, unless you're a national, gigantic, multiple office TPA, you generally and almost never have the ability to have an ERISA attorney on, as part of the payroll. Why is that important to you? Well, it could be several things. Like anytime you have mergers or acquisitions, people forget about the retirement plan. When they're merging with another practice or another firm and they've got all these moving parts, they have a tendency to forget that the retirement plan has some serious consequences that need to be addressed before you close on that deal. Because once you close on the deal, then it's too late to go back. And having an ERISA attorney, which typically is going to run you buku dinero, is, be able to use it without having to buy one or hire one on your own is a big benefit. Because we all try to operate the plans the best we can. Sometimes people make errors by not getting deposits in timely or not having someone who gets missed on eligibility, and then you have to go into what's called the voluntary compliance program with the IRS. And Betsy, who's our ERISA attorney, can walk you through that process and help you. So we find that to be a huge differentiator. Fourth is we we've got probably, I'd say somewhere around 40% of our plans that are integrated with payroll companies. And if you do have your 401k integrated with payroll, you better have somebody that knows how to do it, because every payroll company has different forms that have to be completed. The timing is important. And because we have such a huge percentage of our plans that are integrated with payroll, then that we're good at it and experienced at it. So those are really the differentiators of why you should consider using SMA Services as your TPA. One thing that you need to know for your 401k to be successful, because if you get this down, everything else will fall into place. And that's how the discrimination test works. So here it is. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. The IRS requires that we put all of our employees, eligible employees, into two groups. The definitions are the highly compensated employees and the non-highly compensated employees. Their definition, not mine. So the first step in the process is determine who is in the group of highlies. Well, there's three definitions, and you only have to meet one of the three. Definition number one is any employee who owns 5% of the company or greater. Definition number two, any employee who earned $125,000 in the previous year, automatically highly comp. Then once you determine that, you have to look to see if either the owners or people who make over 125 have any lineal family members on the payroll. And then if they have any lineal family members, they automatically are highly comps no matter what they make. Okay? So let's just say you have 20 employees and 8 of them meet the definition of highly comp. That means the other 12 do not. So now we're ready to do the test. So we're going to take the 8 highlies, we're going to put them over here and focus on these 12 non-highlies. And the way this test works is you have to look at them individually. He's doing 3%, she's doing 6%, he's doing 0%, she's doing 0%. Because if they're eligible to contribute and they've decided not to participate, they count as a 0. Once you take those 12 in this example and got each of their individual percentages, then you divide it by 12. And that gives you an average percentage deferral rate for your non-highly comps. For the purpose of this example, I'm going to say that group averaged 4.2% cumulatively, okay, or as a group. Your 8 highlies can only contribute 2% greater than the average of the group of non-highlies. So in that example, these 8 employees are limited to 6.2% of pay. If they go over, and let's just say as a group they were at 8.2, well, now we've got 2% over that they contributed, so people have to start getting money, the highly comp group have to start getting refunds at the end of the year, have their 401k deferrals run back through payroll. Now you have to pay tax on them. If you've already done your personal income taxes, it's a mess. And so it's just a big problem that can be avoided by understanding how this test works up front before the year starts or before you start a plan, so we can design the plan. And there are a myriad of ways to design the plan to get it to help with that test, whether if it's auto enroll or safe harbor plans, different types of ways to get around the test. But you have to know that up front. So understanding how that test works, to me, is the number one thing that I can share with you today to make your plan successful. So we have a group of employees that had, I'd say there was 25, 30 highlies and about 1,000 non-highlies. And their participation rate was so low in the non-highlies because they were lower wage employees, frankly just couldn't afford to do it. So the highly comps were being limited to 2.5% of pay. And you know, when you start contributing 2% in a 401k, that's not satisfactory to a lot of people who are looking to put away money. How do we fix it? Well, there's actually several fixes. The first thing we did on this is their eligibility was set at 3 months. And extending your eligibility period can always help in your discrimination testing. I recommend a minimum of 6 months, preferably a year, but some people want to get people in sooner, 6 months to a year, so you don't have somebody that's only worked there a short period of time, because once they meet eligibility, they count as a zero. So that helps eliminate part of the zeros right there. And then the second thing we have is something that we did to fix this, and it was the biggie, and I've been pitching this for 25 years, and that's what's called auto-enroll 401k. It's not a different kind of plan, it's just a provision that you put in your plan that works the opposite of the way we think of a K. In an auto-enroll plan, myself and the owner, controller, CFO, whoever the decision maker is, we come up with a percentage of pay, and it's usually 5%. And we say, okay, as soon as you hit eligibility, so in other words, let's say it's a 6-month eligibility. Once I've worked there 6 months, I'm in the plan and I'm doing 5% of pay. I then have 90 days to what's called opt out. If I opt out in the first 90 days, I get all my money back. So we did two things. We increased the eligibility, we put in auto enroll, and it's stuck, and so now all of a sudden you've got all these zeros doing 5%, and the test passed. So it's just an idea. I always tell people, though, you don't want what I call morale hazards, and auto-enroll can be a morale hazard if not properly explained to the employees. Again, my idea of the day, just to try and help show you a solution to the earlier problem that I laid out.